What's up, everybody? It's Soren Baker here on Unique Access Entertainment. As always, please hit that subscribe button right down there. It's free. That enables us to keep coming to you guys as often as possible with as many interviews as possible. So please hit that subscribe button, like our content, share it, talk about it, be about it, each one, teach one. We appreciate you guys' support and getting us this far. Now, today we have the honor and the privilege of being joined by K-Dee. Thank you for coming through, sir.
Hey, man. Appreciate it, man. Appreciate you having me here, man.
Yes. So much history to get to, as well as what he's working on now. His son's doing some big things too. So we got to get to all that today. So K-Dee, for those that know, of course, you had C.I.A. back in the day, and I wanted to really explain to kind of the magic, because some people know C.I.A. criminals in action, some people don't. But what made you, Cube, and Sir Jinx work so well together as a trio, but way back in the day?
I mean, well, for one, we were friends. We went to school together, and then we all stayed close by each other. Cube stayed right down the street from Sir Jinx. They stayed maybe like 5 houses from each other. Me, I stayed a couple of blocks away. So after school, I would go hang out on their block. You know, Jinx had his little DJ equipment in his garage, so we would go over there and mess with Jinx. And one day we just, decided let's start what Q had the idea. Let's start a group. He came out of his typing class one day in his 9th grade typing class, and he wrote a rap. And the rap was fire. And I was like, man, that's your rap? That's your first one? He's like, yeah. He said, let's start a group. So we started a group. First, it was called Stereo Crew. We had signed a contract with Epic Records at 16 years old. And we put a song out called She's a Skag.
And that's the one that was in Michael Jackson video.
Yeah, that was in Michael Jackson video. Yes, sir, in the beginning. And of course, it didn't do nothing. Epic didn't really put no money behind it. So right after that, we signed with Lazo, which was from the World Class Wrecking Crew, and he had Kru-Cut Records. And then that's when we changed Stereo Crew to C.I.A., which was Crew in Action at first, and then we wanted to make it seem more, more hard. So we changed it to Criminals in Action, and that's how that came together.
Well, that leads me to a question I've always had. So why did you guys change from Stereo Crew to C.I.A.? What was it because of going from the different record labels you had to, or was it a different reason, or what?
No, if I remember correctly, I think it was because the times were changing. Back in the late 80s, you had even like with my name, if people know, back in the days, my name was Kid Disaster.
Disaster, yeah.
But all that kid stuff started playing out. So Cube all of a sudden just started calling me K.D. for short, from Kid Disaster to K.D. So back then it was a lot of crews, And I think when we left Stereo Crew, when we left Epic Records and we went to Kru-Cut Records, we wanted to change the image, went to leave that old style alone, because that was, like I said, it was Stereo Crew. It was like, more like B-boyish or whatever. But now we more like into devilish things, being more harder. So we wanted to change the image in the whole image of the group. So it went to Crew in Actions, but then we quickly changed to Criminals in Action.
Yeah. And then on the EP, or the release, the one that you guys had with My Posse in particular, that one reminded me the most. There's just seemed on those songs a lot of like Fat Boys, Beastie Boys type of influence. So how did you guys, and especially later once we get to you as a solo artist, it's so laid back and smooth by comparison. So with those early records, what made you so much more forceful and like aggressive on the mic, even you?
Yeah, really. That wasn't me at all. When we first started, I wasn't me and Jinx, neither one of us was really writing too much. A lot of that album was wrote by Q. Beats were all made by Dr. Dre. So at the time, Dr. Dre was telling us to rap like that. It was his idea for us to yell, scream like Onyx, So later on, when we got away from that, you know, I'm more of a laid back dude. I always been. I've never been a real hyper dude. Never been no gangbanger. I always been laid back, mellow, smooth with the ladies. So that's how the K.D. when it turned to K.D. That's how that came into play. Because don't get me wrong, in the beginning, I was writing gangster stuff, but I thought about it, and I'm like, you know, they'll be able to see through that. You know, people they know I'm not gangster. I'm not gangster at all. So I'm like, let me go with what I do, how I am,
Right.
and it worked better. It worked for me.
Yeah. Well, it's also crazy too on the outside looking in. You know, I'm from Maryland, but I live here in LA now. But the thing is, obviously, I knew better than this, but even some of my friends, the perception, and I want you to break this down, the perception that we had from even with King T, but King T, Ice-T, once we got past the electro records that were going on in LA, I think
Yeah,
people had the perception that it was so wild and everybody was doing this and that. I know it was, but at the same time, what was it like for you coming up in this era, not being a gangster rapper, not being that guy? Was it odd or weird or strange, or was it just it didn't matter because that's who you were?
exactly. Yeah, nah, it wasn't odd or weird, man. It just wasn't me. So I could only be when I wake up in the morning. I can't put on nobody else's. That's I can't pretend. That's just me. I can say I think people can see through that. You know what I'm saying? Because I can see through it on certain people. Now, it might be some people that can play it better than others, but I always thought if I did that, people would be able to see through it.
Right.
So, and I just thought it was just better to be yourself, man. What's better than being like K.D. being a smooth player like K.D. Man, what's better than that? You know, some would say being a gangster, but like on Cube's album, Make It Rough, Make It Smooth. I'm making it smooth, right? It's no way I'm not gonna be hard talking about I'm shooting this, I'm robbing that. You go ahead, you do that. I'm gonna lay back over here with these girls and do my thing. But y'all go over here, fight it out and shoot it out, and that's just
Yeah.
how it was, man.
Okay. Well, you bring up make it rough, make it smooth. Now, it took me again, just watching from afar, it took me a minute to figure out that that was you from C.I.A. / Stereo Crew from back in the day. But
Right.
the other question I always had is that came out in 93. C.I.A. was obviously before even N.W.A., which is 87, 80, 88-ish. So
Yeah.
where were you? What was happening? How come you weren't on America's Most Wanted? How come you weren't on Straight Outta Compton? Like where were you? What was going on? What was happening?
Okay. That's that's a good question. Um, at that time, okay, Cube Cube had went to school. His mother made him go to school. She like fresh out of high school, you going to college or to business college or something. So he went to school in Arizona, right right when N.W.A was taking off. Um, I was more cool with Cube, so I wasn't hanging out with N.W.A like that. I ended up getting me a job. I got a job and started working nights while Cube was at school. Now, when Cube got back, that's when I think all that stuff started happening with him beefing with N.W.A. And that's when he split. And he came to me and told me the whole situation. He told me he was starting street knowledge. Um, I continued to work my job a little bit longer, but then I quit and started working for street knowledge. I did A&R for street knowledge, and then that's how I slowly got back into the picture. But before that, man, I was working. I wasn't even messing with the music for maybe like about a year and a half, 2 years almost.
Right. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Because that was always one of my mysteries of rap. I was always trying to understand that. And with working A&R, was that just because you had like got out the game a little bit? You just wanted to like get back in the mix before you started coming out on records and stuff?
To be honest, I just want to be back a part of the whole. Like I said, I had been away for a while. So when Cube came back and told me he was leaving, he was doing his own thing. Me and Cube had been friends even before this music thing. That was we were best friends, if you want, you want to say, while we were in school. So when he came back and told me he was leaving N.W.A. and he was starting his own thing, that's my best friend. I'm like, bro, I'm over here working nights. You finna start this business. Yeah, what's going on? So he like, yeah, man, fuck that, quit your job, man, and come work for me. I'm like, oh, man, for sure. But I still stayed working for a few months, doing both of them. I was doing both. Like I said, I worked nights, so I was doing both. And then after a while, Pat Charbonnet was like, hey, we need you full time. And so I let that go and I started working for Street Knowledge full time.
Okay. So then at this time, was this like Cam, Yo-Yo? What stuff were you working on?
Yeah, Cam, exactly. Cam and Yo-Yo. This is when Cube got the deal with Street Knowledge had to deal with East West.
Yeah. Okay.
East West.
And
And
then
go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, I was yeah, I was doing a lot of the paperwork and clearing samples for Cam's album and Yo-Yo's album, the Lynch Mob. But that was pretty much was a lot of stuff I was doing.
Okay. So that would have been like Never Again, for Cam, of course, phenomenal album. Gorillas in the Mist, of course, the first album. Yo-Yo.
Jumping in the 90s. Jumping in the 90s.
90s. So those three.
Black Pearl.
Yeah, Black Pearl after that. But the thing that amazed me about Stomping in the 90s, Never Again, Gorillas in the Mist, is even though they're all from the Street Knowledge camp, they're very different. Not only the artists, but like thematically and sonically. So for you, A&R, and then just seeing what was going on at the label, what was it like with these three incredible but very different records happening at around the same time?
Oh man, it was beautiful, man. Because like I said, we had different producers. Yo-Yo obviously had her clique. She had the IBWC. You know what I'm saying? Then you had the Lynch Mob with the militant, stuff going on, and then you had Cam, with the Nation of Islam. So and then also then we also had Cube. I was doing the stuff for Cubes too, and he had his albums, So all four of those combined, man, yeah. I mean, it was different, but it's still it was like we was all a family, man. So it didn't matter the different views and the how your style is or that style is, man. We just all came together and made it happen, man, like a pot of gumbo.
And it worked out really well.
Man, it was fun times, man. It was fun times back then.
I can only imagine. I can only imagine.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But, so on an A&R, was there any particular song or something you did musically that really, or were you doing more A&R administration purely?
Yeah, nah, I'm gonna be honest, man. I would have a lot of material come through the door, and I would at first I was real eager to listen to a lot of it, but it was so much. Yeah, I'm sure man. It was so much, it was so much bad stuff out there, man. It was a lot of bad, so it just got like, man, it was like, oh my god, not again. But no, I never end up finding anybody to sign to the company or anything. It just so I didn't really get to do too much A&R stuff, man. Mostly, like I said, I did a lot of stuff for the artists and clearing samples and stuff like that, like getting a lot of paperwork done.
Okay. So then with Make It Rough, Make It Smooth, what made that be kind of your grand reappearance?
Well, one day, Cube came in. He came in the office, and I think he needed me to do some work for. I think Lynch Mob was going to do their second album. Either that or Mac 10 was getting ready to do his album. And that's when I pulled Cube to the side and I was like, man, I said, oh, what about me? He's like, what you mean, what about you? I'm like, man, I want to get out. I'm like, you remember it was C.I.A. He's like, oh, you still want to rap? I'm like, yeah, man, what you mean do I still want to rap? And from that day, man, it was all go, man. It was all K.D. Cube was all in it. He was all in.
Okay.
That's all we did for the next month, which was just all K-Dee.
Hmm. So then what made you, because he had East West, he was on Priority, the other artists with Street Knowledge were through East West, and then you ended up being on Lynch Mob through N.W.A with Caution. What made you go there instead of one of the other options?
He was ready to do something new, something different. He was ready to step away from the East West thing and start all over. And that's when we came with Lynch Mob Records. He was like, "Hey, we're gonna do this ourselves." I'm like, "All right, let's go." So everything came out of his pocket when we did my album. Everything came out of his pocket. I mean, from videos to promotions to artwork. I mean, he paid for everything. So that was. I mean, like I said, it was his idea. That's what he wanted to do. He was like, I don't want to, because he got tired of the back and forth with the other labels. I mean, the other label involving and stuff in it. So he was like, I want to do it myself, man. I want to just be, us. He said, we put it out and everything we make it come back to us. I'm like, let's go.
Okay. Now with Make It Rough, Make It Smooth, because that was, for some people that knew you like me, I had to figure it out, but that was a reintroduction. But since a lot of people, that might have been the first time they really heard you or got to know you, what do you remember of the main reaction you were getting from fans hearing you on Lethal Injection?
Oh man, the response was lovely, man. It was lovely. I mean, you gotta understand, man, the track was hard as hell, and that was, from QD3. And then the twist that me and Q put on it by going back and forth and him saying he's rough, which everybody knew about. He was hardcore, and then me coming in with that laid back, smooth sound. It just I don't know, man. It just fell in place, and people loved it. So yeah, the response was real good, man. The response was good off the bat.
And it was always crazy to me because it's really more your song than a Cube song, which also I thought was kind of crazy to be on a Cube album. It's really more, I think you have more vocal time on it, if I remember it all correctly.
Um, yeah, I think maybe in the last verse, maybe is that I
I
think
mean, it just seemed like
I don't know. You might be right.
Hmm?
I never looked at it like that. I never even try even. I never even. But you might be right though. You might be right because it was kind of crazy on how it was put
Yeah,
together. It was crazy how it was put together because he wrote. I think Q wrote a lot of the first verse. The second verse we both wrote our own parts, and then the last verse I wrote some of his on the last verse. I wrote a couple of lines for him on the last one. So it was just crazy on how it was done, how we put it together.
yeah. No, that's great, and it was great to hear that you guys back together again. It was just
Oh
awesome,
yeah.
awesome.
Oh
Okay,
yeah.
now with the Lynch Mob being on the Planet of the Apes album, the Mellow Madness, it was
Oh yeah.
that was crazy to me because I love the Gorillas in the Mist album, which is very intense, and Mellow Madness is much more mellow. So, what
Yeah.
what I know there was a lot going on with the group and changes and problems and this and that, but what did you
Yeah.
realize? Because sonically that song is so different. How do you think you guys made it work so well on Mellow Madness?
Um, that's a good question, man. Because to be honest, I really don't even really remember too much about that album being made. I just remember that song because it was like friendly competition. It was like we was all in the studio, and it was like everybody was trying to outdo each other. And when we heard one person's verse, it was like, oh, okay, let me. And then you hear that person's verse, you're like, ah. And then Cube came with his verse, he was like, ah, you know what I'm saying? So it was just it was fun, man. It was friendly competition. But other the other the other process of the album, man, being made, I really don't remember it too well. Um, like you said, it was different changes being made, and that's when Marky came in, and
Mhm.
I think he just came and gave it a different flavor than when JD was there. So, and I think they got a couple of different producers. That's what I think Mr. Woody did some tracks on that one. I think, if I'm not mistaken,
Yep.
and it just gave it a different feel. And I think they just want to go in that direction. I don't know. I think it was the well, I guess political. You know, would you say the first Lynch Mob album was like political or not
Yeah, yeah.
political, but
It was very, very political to me.
okay, okay. Well, I think they didn't want to go that route with the second one, so that's why I think a lot of the style, you know, and then, like I said, because of the main guy, which was JD, and you know, Monkey came in, and that changed up a lot of stuff too.
Yeah. Shout out to Yomo Malky, one of the
Oh yeah,
great underground groups people don't give enough shine to. But
yeah. Yomo went to school with us. Yeah,
oh yeah?
yeah. Yomo went to school with us. Yeah, and Marky, they both went to school with me and Q.
Be sure to check out the History of Gangster Rap by Soren Baker. He's official.
History of Gangster Rap features exclusive interviews with Ice-T, Snoop Dogg, MC Ren, the D.O.C, and dozens of others. The History of Gangster Rap, a definitive look at how Los Angeles changed rap forever.
In Los Angeles, the streets definitely set the tone of the hip-hop music.
At 19, I got a $50,000 car.
My whole angle always was, I'll be street, but I will always tell you the horrors that go along with this life.
There will be penalties and casualties for just wearing the wrong color in somebody's neighborhood.
And once gangster rap made it from the streets to the TV, the genre exploded.
With Fab 5 on Yo MTV Raps with N.W.A.
Yo MTV, it just catapulted us from being local heroes to national gangbang rappers.
The History of Gangster Rap discusses it all from 1980 up till today.
It's always gonna be shit happening in the streets. You know what I mean? So it's always gonna be something to talk about.
The History of Gangster Rap in stores now.